At least, that's what I told people. The truth was simpler. When you're alone most of the time, being awake while everyone else sleeps doesn't feel strange. It feels normal. The building I worked in wasn't big. 2 floors, mostly offices, all locked up by midnight. After that, it was just me, a desk, a bank of security monitors, and a phone that almost never rang. Almost. I locked the main doors, checked the cameras, then settled in behind the desk with a cup of coffee that tasted faintly burned. Outside, the city was quiet. Not silent, but distant. Cars passed occasionally. Somewhere far off, a siren wailed and then faded away. Inside, there was nothing but the low hum of the fluorescent lights and the buzz of the security monitors. I remember checking the time, 12:17 a.m. That was when the phone rang. The sound startled me more than it should have. The office phone almost never rang at night. Anyone who needed access after hours had my cell number. I stared at it for a second before answering. "Security," I said. There was a pause. Then breathing. Not static. Not interference. Breathing. Slow, careful, and very close to the receiver. "Hello," I said again, but the breathing stopped. For a moment, all I could hear was the hum of the lights overhead. Then a voice spoke. "I'm inside." Another pause. No movement on any camera. "That's not possible," I said, keeping my voice calm. "The building is closed." The voice on the other end sounded tired. "I know," it said. "Where are you right now?" I asked. "I don't know," the voice replied. Something about the way they said it bothered me. It wasn't panicked. It wasn't confused. It was resigned. I scanned the monitors again, checking each camera more carefully. Stairwells completely still. Windows. "Sir," I said, "are you sure you're in this building?" "Yes," they answered immediately. "I've been here before. Just not like this." A quiet, uneasy feeling settled into my chest. "What do you mean by that?" The breathing returned, slow and deliberate. "I'm not supposed to be awake right now." I swallowed hard. I stood up from the desk, phone pressed to my ear, and walked closer to the monitors. I zoomed in on the hallway cameras, searching for anything at all that I might have missed. "You won't find me," the voice said gently. My hand tightened around the phone. "Why not?" Another pause. Then, very quietly, the voice said, "Because you already walked past me." My heart skipped a beat. I turned slowly, scanning the empty lobby behind me. The front doors stood locked and secure. The hallway stretched out empty and still. "I'm alone," I said, my own voice barely a whisper. "No," the voice replied, "you're just the only one breathing." The line went dead. I stared at the phone in my hand, my pulse pounding in my ears. I checked the call log. No number, no record of an incoming call, just the time, 12:19 a.m. I sat there until morning, with all the lights on, my heart racing every time the building creaked or the air conditioner kicked on. That's when I noticed it. Something was written on the fogged glass of the front door. 4 words, written from the inside. "I stayed quiet for you. I quit the next day." And sometimes, when my phone rings late at night and I don't recognize the number, I still let it ring. Because I'm afraid of who might answer if I don't. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there. That night, I never planned on taking the last bus. My shift ran late, and I missed the earlier one. By the time I got to the stop, the street was deserted. All the shops were dark, their signs off. The only sound was the soft buzz of the streetlights overhead. A deep after-midnight quiet had fallen over everything. The sign at the bus stop read 12:58 a.m. Last bus. I remember pulling out my phone, thinking about just calling a ride. But the bus was cheaper, and I was so tired that heavy, bone-deep exhaustion that makes even small decisions feel like a huge effort. So I decided to wait. The bus arrived right on time. It pulled up with a low hiss, the doors folding open with a slow groan. When I stepped on, the driver didn't even look at me. He was an older man, thin, with deep lines etched into his face. Both his hands were locked tightly around the steering wheel. I paid my fare and walked toward the back. The bus was completely empty, not a single soul, not even someone dozing in a corner seat. Every single row was vacant, the overhead lights humming in the silence. That probably should have bothered me, but it didn't. At least, not at first. I sat down near the middle and leaned my head against the cold window glass. Outside, the city slid by in blurry fragments, closed gas stations, dark apartment buildings, and long, empty stretches of road with no traffic at all. After a couple of minutes, I noticed the bus wasn't stopping. It would slow down slightly as it approached a stop, then just keep going. By the third stop, it passed without even slowing. I sat up straight. "Hey," I called out toward the front. "You skipped that stop." The driver didn't say anything. He didn't even move. I stood up and started walking toward him, gripping the poles to keep my balance as the bus swayed. When I reached the front, I saw something strange. The route map above the windshield was wrong. It showed stops I'd never heard of on streets that I knew didn't exist in my city. The names were familiar, but twisted, like someone was trying to remember them from a fading dream. "Excuse me," I said, a little louder this time. The driver finally spoke, his voice calm and flat. "You're the only one left." "I know," I said, my patience wearing thin, "but you missed my stop back there." He just shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "You missed it." A cold knot tightened in my stomach. I looked out the windows again, and my heart dropped. The city was gone. No buildings, no shops, no streetlights. There was just the road, an endless black ribbon stretching into the darkness, lit only by the bus's headlights. Beyond that absolute nothingness, my breath started coming faster. "This isn't the right route," I stammered. The driver nodded slightly. "It never is at this hour." I backed away from him, grabbing a seat to steady myself. The bus felt different now. The quiet was heavier. The hum of the engine seemed deeper, slower, and then I noticed it. The seats weren't empty anymore. There were shapes sitting in them. Not solid people, but more like impressions. Sunken cushions, faint outlines in the fabric, as if passengers had just stood up moments before. I could almost see where hands had rested on the armrests, where heads had leaned against the windows. "How many stops are left?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The driver let out a slow, long breath. "One." I swallowed hard. "And then what?" He didn't answer. The bus began to slow down. Ahead, a single bus stop emerged from the darkness. It was just a pole. No sign, no bench, no surrounding street. Just the stop, standing alone in the void. The bus hissed to a halt, and the doors opened with a groan, letting in a rush of cold air. I looked back at the seats one last time. The shapes were clearer now. I could almost make out faces, all turned toward me, watching, waiting. "Go," the driver said softly. "Why?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Because if you stay," he replied, "you'll stop noticing when you arrive." I didn't need to be told twice. I ran. The second my feet hit the pavement, the doors slammed shut behind me. The bus pulled away instantly, vanishing into the blackness without a sound. I stood there, shaking, completely alone, on a road to nowhere. Then a pair of headlights appeared in the distance. A car slowed down and stopped beside me. The driver rolled down his window. "Are you okay?" he asked, looking confused. "This road's been closed for years." I didn't answer. I just got in. The next morning, my curiosity got the better of me. I went on the City Transit website. That bus route had been discontinued years ago after a fatal crash. The last run time ever listed, 12:58 a.m. Thanks for watching. If you have a spooky story of your own, share it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more strange tales. I woke up because I wasn't alone anymore. That was the first thought that crossed my mind. Not fear, just certainty. The room was dark, the kind of dark that feels thick and close. I lay completely still, listening. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Slow, controlled, and close. My heart began to pound, but I didn't move. I kept my eyes half-lidded, watching through my lashes. That's when I saw the shape. Someone was standing at the foot of my bed, perfectly still. I couldn't see their face. I told myself it was a shadow, but then it shifted slightly. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't move. Sleep paralysis. The figure raised its hand slowly and then spoke, not out loud, but inside my head. You noticed me faster this time. It stepped back, and the pressure vanished. I bolted upright, gasping. The room was empty, but in the morning I found a single bare footprint on the floor, leading out